Hey guys, it's Will down here at Magic the Friendly Tavern, and we're going to just start up where we left off. We're talking about Lathril, the elf, and an elf commander tribal deck. So that's what we're discussing right now. Um, we've already been over all the elves. It's all the elves on there, all 35 of them. Next, we're going to talk about these two cards which care about elves. This first one is create a 1/1 green elf warrior creature for each elf you control. So we control 5 elves. This will make 5 tokens for 4 mana. It's pretty good. Pretty good. This is an instant speed version of the same card. Create a 1/1 elf warrior creature token for each elf you control. Elvish Ambush and Elvish Promenade do about the same thing. One's sorcery, one's not. One's elf tribal, which doesn't really come up much in this deck, but yeah. So those can make tokens. So what we're looking to do is wait for these to cast these spells. So we got 10 or 12 creatures out there that are elves, and then bam, make 20. That's kind of what we're going for here. We're just trying to really go mass effect elves. Alrighty then. So then we have a whole bunch of creatures that are not elves that are in this deck that may not need to be, but they are, and we're going to talk about them. All right. So first up is Underrealm Lich, which says if you would draw a card, instead look at the top 3 cards of your library, then put 1 in your hand and the rest in your graveyard. Pay 4, it gains indestructible until end of turn, tap it. This allows us to manipulate the top of our deck. This allows us to find exactly what we need when we need it. That's why it's in here. It's good. This is a finisher. This is Craterhoof Behemoth. This is a 7 or an 8 mana 5/5 with haste. When it enters the battlefield, creatures you control gain trample and get +X until end of turn, where X is the number of creatures you control. So if we have 20 elves out there, we can give all of our creatures +20, and then swing with them, including the behemoth itself. So that's why it's a finisher. It works very well. It's time and tested. Remember that Fierce Empath we were talking about earlier? Yeah, that Fierce Empath goes and fetches this creature. Practically only this creature, but it does fetch this creature, and that's the one we want. There's another creature in here I think it can fetch as well. This is Pathbreaker Ibex, 6 mana 3/3. When it attacks, creatures you control gain trample and get +X until end of turn, where it's the greatest power among creatures you control. So if we have a 5/5 or a 6/6, everything gets +6 in trample, and then we get to swing in with it. So this again pumps our team as an overrun effect, and it gains trample. That's what we want. So that's again the way we win. Fauna Shaman is utility, and it's actually an elf. It should have been in the utility elves section. I don't know why I thought it was a human. Anyways, you pay 2 for a 2/2, pay green, discard a creature card, search your library for a creature card, reveal it, put it in your hand. So this is a survival of the fittest on a stick, and it's fixed, and so we get to discard a creature card and then go find the creature we want. Good enough. That's exactly what we want. Next, Seaboard Muse, which is a human or spirit, either or. Nope, it's a spirit. Untap all permanents you control during other players' untapped step. That includes our mana-producing elves or mana-producing lands. And if we have Yeb out, that means we can play at instant speed on everybody else's turn with everything untapped. Isn't that wonderful? Yes, this thing is ridiculous. Always has been. Next is another thing Fierce Empath can get. And that would be Regal Force. When Regal Force enters the battlefield, 7 mana for a 5/5, you draw a card for each green creature you control. So if we control 10 green elves, we get 10 cards. That's kind of what we're looking for. It's very, very good. Then we have Prowling Cerebar can't be countered. Creature spells you control can't be countered. This is a hedge against blue. This is against blue. This is hedges. This allows us to basically be an Allosaurus Shepherd, except for Allosaurus Shepherd was $100 at the time of building this deck. And he had it in his budget to get it, but he didn't want to get it. He didn't seem like wanting to spend the money on it, especially if it had a chance to be reprinted. So he decided to go with Prowling Sauropod instead. It's still pretty good. Then lastly, we have Beast Whisperer, which is 4 mana 2/3 human or elf druid. It is an elf. I had no idea it was an elf. I thought it was another human. I can't see its ears. It's got a hood on. Anyways, whenever you cast a creature spell, draw a card. So there you go. We are going to be casting a lot of creature spells, and hopefully a whole bunch at once, and so we get to refill our hand. Hopefully we're able to cast off and make a whole bunch of mana and keep drawing. That's what kind of what Glimpse of Nature does too. It says 1 mana for a sorcery whenever you play a creature spell, which the new errata, if you look here, whenever you cast a creature spell, play and cast mean the same thing. Draw this turn, draw a card. So for this turn, and you draw a card because this ends at end of turn. So you want to set this up. You just don't want to play this willy nilly. And it's a cast. It doesn't work on tokens coming into play, which means it might get the cut. But I thought it was pretty cute, so I kept it in there. This is a finisher enchantment. This is a finisher spell. These are finisher artifacts. This is utility. Let's go ahead and talk about our finishers. Here's another finisher. Attacking elves you control have death touch. Great. Whenever an elf you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life and gains 1 life. If you can amass enough elves on the board that they can no longer wrath, that's what this card is for. Basically, if they have 20 life and you have 23 elves in play and they have a Wrath of God, if they cast that Wrath of God, they die. Because whenever an elf you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So you would drain them for 20 and gain 23, actually, because I said 23. So that's what this is for. And plus, attacking elves getting death touch is great. I think this is a really good enchantment. This came from the precon and it stayed in, and I think it's good. It's kind of a little bit of insurance against wrath if you're at late game. Torment of Hellfire, since we are creating a whole bunch of mana, why not have an X spell in here? Repeat the following process X times. Each opponent loses 3 life unless that player sacrifices a non-land permanent or discards a card. You can get this high enough, you can make sure to kill them with it. Really good spell. Hits all opponents. It's decent. And it's fun. Then we have Coat of Arms. Coat of Arms is risky. If you're up against other tribal decks, do not play this card. It could backfire on you. But each creature gets +1/+1 for each other creature in play that shares a creature type with it. This is a symmetrical effect. This hits everybody, including your opponents. For example, a Goblin Warrior and a Goblin Scout and a Zombie Goblin are in play. Each get +2/+2. It's for each other creature. So if you have 1 elf in play, it does nothing. If you have 2 elves in play, +1/+1. 3 elves, +2/+2, so on and so forth. This can come down. You have 5 elves and get +4/+4. It's great. You definitely bring you ahead in combat. Door Destinies work similarly. 4 mana. When it comes to play, choose a creature type. Whenever you play a spell of the type, put a charge counter on Door Destinies. Creatures you control get +1/+1 for each charge counter on Door Destinies. So if you can play 2 or 3 elves and get +3/+3 out of this thing, it's pretty good. Moving on, we have Sword of Feast and Famine. And what this does is give +2/+3 pro black, pro green, which that pro green sometimes matters. So be careful what you stick this on. Because if you stick this on one of your elves, you're open to untap with Kyrian Ranger or the Wirewood Symbiont. It's not going to happen. Whenever a creature deals damage to a player, the player discards a card and you untap all lands you control. That untap all lands is what we want. We want ramp. So this acts as ramp. This kind of acts as ramp. That's why it's in here. Moving on, we have these enchantments, which are utility. This says, whenever a creature you control dies, you gain 1 life and draw a card. So if they board Rathus and this is out, we can gain all that life and draw all those cards. This also protects us from our cards that say, whenever an elf dies, lose a life and draw a card. This is the reverse of that. So this can actually keep us from dying to our own effects. during that same board wrath. But this is just really good, card draw. And then we have Sylvan Library. Sylvan Library says at the beginning of your drop step, you may draw 2 additional cards. If you do, choose 2 cards in your hand from drawn this turn. So from the 3 you draw, because beginning of your draw step, 2 additional cards, draw. You actually draw on 3. Put 2 of them back. Or you can pay for... Oh, yeah. All right, so you put 2 back. If you don't want to put them back, you can pay 4 life for each card or put them back. So for 8 mana, you can keep all 3 cards you drew. I mean, for 8 life, you can keep all 3 cards you drew, which sometimes is good. So you can pick and choose to draw extra. It's a busted card. It really is. Here's another enchantment. This is Growing Light Rites of Implemok, and it says when it enters to play, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of any of your library in any order. So this actually lets us search, grab out maybe another elf. Actually pretty great. Then we can flip it, and it can either tap to add 1 green mana or tap to add 1 green mana for each creature we control. So we have 10 elves. This thing can produce 10 mana. And then we can hit with Swords of Feast and Famine, untap it, and do it again. This is great. This is basically fixed Gaia's Cradle, and doesn't cost $1,000 like Gaia's Cradle. It only costs $20. This card is sick. If you don't have one of these, pick it up now. It's just going to keep going up in price. I don't think they're going to reprint it. I could be wrong, but let's hope. Miri's Guile. During your upkeep, you may look at the top 3 cards of your library and put them back in any order. We have, obviously, we have fetches in here, so we can shuffle away those cards. So that's why this works so well. This is just kind of like Sylvan Library. It just helps us manipulate the top of our deck in green-black, which isn't something that green-black usually gets to do. So that's why it's in here. It's pretty good. It's a good budget card. Or was, anyways. I don't know if it still is. And then we have some removal. All of this is removal, except for that and that. So let's start off. We have Windgrace's Judgment, 5 mana instant. For any number of opponents, destroy a non-land permanent that player controls. So if you have 3 other opponents, you can hit 3 things. I thought that was pretty good for 5 mana. Not bad at all. I'm kind of happy with this card. It's pretty cool. Putrefy will hit a creature or an artifact. Pretty good. Good budget card that hits multiple targets, pretty flexible. Then we have Go for the Throat, which isn't budget, but it doesn't cost that much as $1. But destroy target non-artifact creature. They didn't come up very often, the non-artifact part. This is like one of the best black removal spells there is, even though there is a better one out now that this might get upgraded to. But destroy target non-artifact creature. There you go. No drawbacks besides the non-artifact part. Then we have Assassin's Trophy, which can destroy any permanent, including a land. They get to search for a basic land and put it in play tapped. But it's any permanent, even a troublesome land. So that's great. This thing is great, and it's worth all $13. This is for enchantments and artifacts. It will destroy any enchantment or artifact. This controller gains 4 life, but it's 1 green for an instant. You just can't get better value than that. It's just great. Last but not least, we have a new card in here, and this says 4 mana, destroy target non-land permanent, but it costs 2 less if we gain life this turn. And we have ways to gain life in this deck, so it's good. It's good. Even at 4 mana, destroy target non-land permanent, it's fine. It's fine. It's a good card. Then we have a little bit of board wipe. Help with board wipes. Permanents you control gain hexproof and indestructible till end of turn. So there's a little bit of protection. It's not bad to have protection spells. Next up is Worldly Tutor. Worldly Tutor says search your library for a creature card, reveal that card, shuffle your library, then put the card on top of it. So it goes and finds what we need. If we need a combo piece. Not bad. Next up is the sorceries, actually. Not very many of them, so let's get to it. Pact of the Serpent. Choose a creature type. Target player draws X cards and loses X life, where X is the number of creatures they control of the chosen type. So this can draw us a lot of cards. Or if we're up against another tribal deck, we can deal a lot of damage to them, depending on if we're on the back foot or the front foot. So, a lot of flexibility there. This is a demonic tutor, so we can search our library for any card, put it into our hand, and shuffle our library. Everybody should have one of these if they're running black. Next up is Maelstrom Pulse, which destroy target non-land permanent and all other permanents with the same name as that permanent. Doesn't seem like it does much, but if you hit a token with this, like say a vampire token, or a zombie token, they all have the same name. So it'll destroy tokens. It'll take tokens out completely. All of them. With the same name. On all sides of the boards. It doesn't matter. So that's what makes Maelstrom Pulse so unique, especially in Commander. It's even better in 4-card, 60-card deck formats, but it's pretty good in Commander because people don't realize how powerful it is. But it destroys any non-land permanent as well. I mean, it's all right. It's good. Then we have a sweeper ourselves. We're not running very many sweepers because, we don't want to blow up our own creatures. We're trying to amass an amazing amount of creatures to the board as quickly as possible. So having the Wrath really hurts us. But we are running Damnation just in case we got to. To show out creatures that can't be regenerated. Then we have Patriarch's Bidding, which is each player chooses a creature type. Each player returns all creatures of the type chosen from his or her graveyard to play. So if they do Wrath our Elves, and we can cast Patriarch's Bidding, we can get all our Elves back. That's the whole point of this card. So more against Wrath. So there's a swamp, basic land. Here are some lands that produce green-black. And that's practically all they do, so we don't really need to take a look at them too hard. Here's one that's fetchable. That's Overgrown Tomb. Here is a utility land. Here's a utility land. Here's a basic. Again, just produces green-black, nothing special. Here's a fetch land. And you can see I kind of went cheap on the mana base, so he would have a lot more to upgrade. Because you know how expensive mana bases can get. Here's another utility land. Utility land. Utility land. Okay. Utility land. I have to learn. Okay, so we're running 5 swamps. You can see up here. No big deal. We are running 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 forests. Just main deck. Here's one of our fetch lands right here. Verdant Catacombs. We'll go get a swamp or a forest. It'll fetch out the this right here. So this will produce green or black. This command tower. It'll produce anything your commander's colors. The next one is the pathway. Pathway is, this one starts black on the front side, or you can choose the back side and it comes down and produces green. You come into play, untap, produce the color. So those are great. I love them. This comes into play, untap, produces green or black, but you got to reveal an elf card from your hand. Or it comes into play tapped. So that's good. This is Lawn of War Waste. This will do green, produce green or black, but it deals 1 damage to you. But it's a fast land. It's pretty good. Here is, I do believe this is, yeah, you have to reveal a swamp or forest from your hand. If you don't, it comes into play tapped. But it adds black or green. It's Woodland Cemetery. It's pretty good. Then we have the Shock Land. So this is a swamp forest, either on the land type or in the land bar. Overgrown tomb. Overgrown tomb enters the battlefield. You may pay 2 life. If you don't, it enters tapped. So that's why they call it Shock Land. You shock yourself to have it come into play untapped. This says enters the battlefield tapped unless you have 2 or more opponents. It adds black or green. So as long as you're in a 4-man pod, you're good. If you killed off 2 of the other players, it'll come into play tapped. But hey, this will come into play tapped unless you control 2 or fewer lands. So you want to get this early. This is an early land you want to get. It's not bad. This is a filter land. This will produce, you pay 1 black or green to produce black, black, green, black, green, or green, green to your mana pool. So it's not bad. Moving on, this one is tap to add green or black, but it deals 1 damage to you. It's pay 1 life to add that. Or you can pay 1 to sacrifice it and draw a card. That's the utility on it, is you can sack it to draw a card. Then we have this right here, which will enters the battlefield tapped unless you control a forest. Pay green. Pay 2 and 2 green and add 6 green to your mana pool. Activate this to only cast creature spells or activate abilities of creatures. So this lets us cheat on mana, which is really good, especially since, Izuri's ability costs 6 for the overrun effect. So this will allow us to cheat that 6 right here off of this. So that's good. Fine land. Mosswort Bridge comes into play Hideaway. So you look at the top 3 cards of your library, 4 cards. You choose one and put it under the Hideaway. And then when you can pay 1 in a green, you may play the exile card without paying its mana cost. If creatures you control have power 10 or greater. So you have total power 10 or greater. So if you have 5 elves out there and they all have +1/+1 counters on them, making them 2/2s, then you have 10 power. And so you can activate that and get whatever you put underneath it. It's out from underneath it. It's good. Castle Lochwain allows you to draw 1 card, which you lose life equal to the number of cards in your hand. So you want to activate this when you're really low on cards, so you don't take that much damage. But if you have Well-Wisher out there and you're gaining like 10 to 20 life a turn, it doesn't really matter at that point. Activated it willy-nilly. Murder Zone, you can sacrifice it until end of turn. You may cast spells as though they have flash. So that's another way to be able to play on our opponent's turns. Next up is the High Market, which is tap to add 1 colorless or sacrifice creature. You gain 1 life. That's utility. Some creatures we don't want to get exiled, and if they die, we can get them back. So we want to be able to sacrifice them in response to that removal. That's why this is in here. Then there's Fabled Passage, which gets a basic land. But then, if you control 4 or more lands, untap that land. So we'll put it into play tapped unless you control 4 or more lands. But it's a fetch land. It's a good fetch land. Then Bajuka Bog is when it enters battlefield tapped, but when it enters, exile all cards from target player's graveyard. So it's graveyard hate. That's good to have on a stick. This is also a combo land. Pay 1 green to untap a target elf. We already talked about our untapping our mana elves to produce more mana. So this is right up our alley. This is what we want. This right here says, comes into play tapped. We can tap it to add green, or we can tap it to put a +1/+1 counter on each green creature that entered the battlefield this turn. So we have 4 or 5 elves into the battlefield. Then we put +1/+1 counters on them. That's great. Ooh, we're hitting the 25-minute mark. We got to hurry up. This is Cavern of Souls. It basically says choose a creature type, add 1 mana of any color, and that mana is spent on that creature type that you chose. That spell can't be countered. So it's another way to get around counter magic. And that's it. That's our 100-card deck. That's everything about Lathril. I hope you all enjoyed. Again, my name is Will from Down at Magic, the Friendly Tavern on Facebook. Come see us. Happy pack pulls, and as always, happy games.